Today we're going to talk about array and object destructuring, which is a really important topic when you're using React with JavaScript, but also just JavaScript on its own. Let's get right to it. Here I have an array called dogs. Say I wanted to set the first item in this array equal to a variable. What I would do would be const first dog equals dogs of 0. The reason why I say dogs of 0 is because 0 is the first item in the array. Arrays count from 0, 1, 2, 3. And then if I wanted to set a variable for the second dog, do so like this, dogs of 1, and then I'll just console.log show you that. And just run this file using Node. You can see EV and Zeke, the first two items in the array. So where does destructuring come in? Well, there's a much more elegant way to do this. Rather than have to reference every single item in multiple lines, say if I wanted to set all of these equal to variables, that would be 5 lines of code. You can do this in one simple line of code by doing destructuring. If I comment this out, and I write const, and then inside of an array, I name the variables here. So I write first dog, comma, second dog, and I set this equal to that dog's array. What this is doing is grabbing the first item and the second item and giving them variable names. If I print this out, no destructuring, you can see the same results, EV and Zeke, the first two items. You can do this with all of the items in the array. Say I wanted to do all of these items. I could do third dog, comma, fourth dog, fifth dog. And then I'll just console.log these. Print this out. Amazing. So it's really a way to set these equal to variables in one simple line. Another really handy thing is that say it's not important to have the third dog, but I still need the fourth and the fifth. I can actually just get rid of this and just have this comma separating the two. Save, run our code, and you can see that the third dog just isn't there. If you ever want something later in the array, like I could even do this too, if I just want the fourth dog and I don't want the first three, you can just add a simple comma and that will exclude that item in the array and set the others into variables. Another really crucial thing when it comes to destructuring is the rest operator. Give it a rest, we're gonna. Let's start over with this. We'll go back to just having first dog. So say I have first dog in a variable, and then I want the rest of the array in another variable. I can use the rest operator. The way this works is by doing comma and then 3 dots. So dot, 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 and then whatever you want the variable to be named. Let's just call it rest of dogs. And then let's print this out. First dog, comma, rest of dogs. And see here, when we run the code, we have first dog, EV, and then we have an array of 4 items, which is the rest of the dogs. The rest operator comes in really handy. You can also use it to make copies of items. If I ever wanted to make a copy of the original dogs array, I can also use the rest operator for that. The way I would do that is saying const dogs copy equals dogs, and then I'll print that out here and show you. It's a copy of the array, it's not a reference to the array, which is really important because if you updated dogs copy, you wouldn't update dogs. And the rest operator comes in really handy for those reasons. Now, I wanted to show you a quick example of how you use this in React and where this really comes into play. So here I have a simple app using V, and inside of here, I'm using the useState hook. If you've ever wondered why this works, because it just seems like magic, it's actually using destructuring. So here we have this Pokemon data, comma, set Pokemon data equals useState of null. Background, the way that useState works is first item in this array is the state, and the second is the function to update the state, and then you call the hook, and you tell it whatever the initial value should be. The way that the useState hook works in the background is useState is a function that's returning an array of 2 items. These 2 items are our state and our update function. That's why we can use any variables inside here, and they'll get the properties of what useState is returning to us. It's really the beauty of the useState hook. And now I'll show you destructuring objects. So here we have an object called details, and in this object we have name, language, and video type. If I wanted to get language and set it equal to a variable, the way I would do this would be const language equals details dot language. And same with name and video type, const name equals details dot name, const video type details.videotype, and so on. That's how you reference items within an object. You do dot notation and call the key that's in the object. The name of these items in the object, whatever is before this little colon, is the key for that item in the object. However, with destructuring, we could do all of this in one line. It's a much more elegant solution, and also it's a much better experience to set things equal to variables rather than keep on calling dot notation within your file. Like say I have video type within my file and I'm referencing it multiple times. It's a much better experience to set it equal to a variable. It's much clearer code, more concise. Everyone's gonna be happier. Just quickly, I'm just gonna console log to show you that these things are what I said. I'm not a liar. No destructuring. So you can see he then printed JavaScript, code Emily, destructuring. But I could actually write all of this in one line. So if I comment this out, so just like earlier when we were using our array destructuring, with objects, we actually put in const and then the curly braces to denote the fact that it's an object that we're destructuring. So inside of here, we're going to call these items name, language, video type. All of the object keys, so name, language, video type, equals details. And then if I print this out, you'll see the same values. An important thing to note when you're destructuring objects is that it works a little bit differently than arrays. If I ever wanted this to be a different variable name than the key itself, what I would do is actually override it, saying name is, let's say, channel name instead. And then let's just console.log channel name. And we'll just run using node again. And you can see now channel name is set equal to code Emily. But if I were to just have channel name here and run this the same way, we'll see undefined. So that's the way that objects work slightly different than arrays when you're destructuring. If you want to reference, say, the third item within an object, you don't have to do any of that comma separating stuff. You actually can just reference it and say video type here, and this will work appropriately because they're actually referencing their keys. See here, now that's outputting destructuring. You'll see object destructuring most commonly when you're using React in terms of props. So if you ever see this, this is probably also something that just seems like magic. So here we have an object, and within this object we have source and title. But it's a little confusing, right? Because a lot of the time people are used to just calling this object as the variable in the function called props, and then referencing something like props.source, etc. But what's happening here is we're actually destructuring props within this function. This is actually the props object, but it's replaced with the destructured version of grabbing source and title from props. You'll see this all over React, and it's a much better and cleaner way to do this than doing, props.source, props.title, etc. because it makes for cleaner code, easier to read code, and cleaner code and easier to read code is better code. If I wanted to use the rest operator on an object, I would do it the same way that I did it with the array. I'm grabbing video type already, and then I would do comma, and then the 3 dots, ... rest, and I'll just call it rest of details. And you can call that variable anything you want. It doesn't have to match up with the keys whatsoever. And then if I print out rest of details, and I run this using node, we'll see destructuring is one variable, and then this object is the rest of the object put into a variable. And you can do the same thing that I showed earlier as well. You can make copies of objects using the rest operator. So if I wanted to do const copy of details, I could set this equal to the curly braces and then 3 dots and say details. And if I want to print that out in the console, print that out here, we can see the same object that we have in details, but it's a copy of it, so it's not a reference to it, which is a really important thing because if you actually have a reference to an object or an array and you update that, you're updating both the copy and the original. You can actually make a copy so that when you go to update it, you're only updating the copy or the original. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it helps with destructuring. I know that it can be a really confusing topic, so please let me know if there's anything that I could go into depth a little bit more on in terms of destructuring, etc. Stick around for more videos. I have much more to come.